If you found your way to this podcast, chances are you've already done a lot of the inner work and you've learned things about yourself. You've questioned those old roles, and you've probably had moments where you realized the life that you built doesn't really fit who you are. And that's okay because rewilding is what happens after that realization. Welcome to Rewild by Design, a podcast for women in midlife who are ready to burn the rule book, drop the good girl mask, and come home to who they really are. I'm your host, Marissa, a human design and Gene Keys mentor and your guide in this wild woman era. Get ready for bold conversations, raw truths, and the kind of insights that'll shake you awake. Because midlife isn't the end of your story. It's the point where you finally get to write it your way. Welcome back to Rewild by Design. This is episode 15. And I know it might not seem like a lot, but to me, I'm going to celebrate that because this year, my word for the year is devotion. And I want to really celebrate what I'm devoted to. And one of those things is this podcast because I absolutely love talking about these topics and especially rewilding. My whole business is called Rewild by Design. And when we think of rewilding, the term gets used a lot, but more in from like the design architecture space. We're going to rewild our spaces, rewild our environment, but we can apply that to us as women, especially in midlife. I think it is critical that we drop these good girl masks, let go of all these roles that we thought we had to identify with in order to make us successful and satisfied and delighted with life. But no. So I want to talk today a little bit more in detail. So this is going to go back to episode 1 a little bit, but talking what is rewilding in midlife? What why is it that it's a system that can help you move through your life and every day in a way that actually feels good and nourishing and not draining? So, if you found your way to this podcast, chances are you've already done a lot of the inner work and you've learned things about yourself. You've questioned those old roles, and you've probably had moments where you realized the life that you built doesn't really fit who you are. And that's okay because rewilding is what happens after that realization. This is the kind of work that I do with my clients. It's at the core of my process. And especially in the Nine Centers Mystery School, where we're taking human design out of your head and into your actual choices, your relationships, your work, so that you can have energy and navigate this next chapter with complete and total authenticity and confidence. So, rewilding itself, in my eyes, is not about burning your whole life to the ground, and certainly not going off and disappearing into a mountain cabin in the woods. And it's not about reinventing yourself or becoming a new person because you're already whole and perfect just as you are. Rewilding is about remembering the version of you that existed before you learned how to override yourself. And most of us women, we don't lose ourselves overnight. It happens slowly through our responsibilities, through being dependable, through adapting to our environment and the people around us, and through learning what was rewarded and what was punished. So it was a safety mechanism. And rewilding is that process of unwinding and untangling all of that. It's about coming home to who you really are underneath all of those layers of conditioning. So, I want to introduce you to my 4-part rewilding framework. And this, again, as I mentioned, is what I use in my work. And you might recognize yourself in each of these parts because I don't use it as a checklist. I'm not here to show you how you move in these as you have to check off number one and then you can go to number two. No, this is more like a spiral, and these are layers. And sometimes you have to revisit the same one more than once, or you spend time in one pillar a little bit more than another, and that's totally okay. Now, the first one is called deconditioning. What the hell is deconditioning? This is the beginning. This is where you're noticing where your choices stopped being yours. And we're not talking about just the big ones like careers and relationships. We're talking about even the small decisions and how you say yes, how you manage your energy, how you decide what's acceptable and reasonable, and how you push through things that feel super heavy, even when they look good on paper. This is often where I find women in the not self theme of their human design. So the frustration, the anger, the bitterness, the disappointment, or they're exhausted, or this low grade burnout and resentment that you don't really have words to name it, but you can feel it. And I want to point out that there is absolutely nothing. This part is about you building your awareness. We're noticing things, and that's all we're doing. We're just noticing. And deconditioning is pulling yourself and pulling those layers apart from your actual identity, that you don't have to identify with everything that has been thrown at you. Pillar two is called reconnecting. So once you stop the automatic override, I noticed that something interesting happens. You actually can feel your body again. So many of us have been have spent so many decades disconnected from our physical bodies. And here in reconnecting, we're done with performance and we're here in the practical. So you're going to start noticing when something doesn't feel right, and maybe when your energy doesn't feel aligned, or you notice when something feels easy without any effort. This is where human design comes into play and plays a really big part in the reconnection process, because we're using human design as a map. So your type, your authority, your centers, again, these are not more labels or more boxes to put you into. These are just reference points of the things that you already know about yourself, but now we're going to give ourselves that permission to really step into this version. And the parts of your chart help you understand why certain things in life drain the shit out of you and others just feel so good and juicy. And I am a firm believer that human design is not a like nice to have kind of thing. It's literally the map of your energy mechanics, of your aura. And it gives us a visual and physical representation of what we're already feeling. Reconnecting is learning to check in before you commit to things. Check in with yourself, not other people. And before you start explaining yourself or justifying, and before you agree to something that costs more energy than you actually have in your bank. Number three is reclaiming. This is where I notice the shit starts getting real. Reclaiming is where you start to make different choices. So we're shedding the old layers. We're building awareness. We're noticing things. We're aligning with our design. And reclaiming is about making those different choices, even if they don't make any sense to anybody else. You don't owe anyone justification. This is your life. We can do it with kindness, though. We're not going to tell everybody to go fuck off unless they deserve it. But this is where you learn to say, you're practicing saying no when you feel that gut no. or you stop over explaining yourself and you change how you show up and you work. And there's boundaries, and these are loving boundaries. And it's okay to here to let some things be unfinished. And I'm talking to you, my MG friends. But this I notice a lot of the guilt and the shame and the conditioned side comes up and it's uncomfortable, or the fear of disappointing people. And this is totally normal because you are stepping out of those old agreements. It's not going to feel automatically super easy. And if it does, good. That means you're moving and you're moving through all of this. And this is the space where community support and support from other women who are on this path really helps, because when you do this work alone, you can feel really isolated. But having other women around you who are living their design or are examples of what is possible is so juicy and so good for us. And I think in our society, we have been so pulled away from this community aspect. Then, and as women, we do better in this matriarchal community, this circle. And that's exactly what we're doing inside the Nine Centers Mystery School. So I'll leave it in the show notes for more information. And last but not least, we have rebirthing. And as I mentioned a few times already, rebirthing, nothing about this is about becoming a new person. You're not changing who you are. Yes, maybe you're changing your choices and you're choosing and you're changing your awareness, but you're not becoming someone new. This is the time where we're letting your life reorganize around who you already are. And this I notice is where our nervous system and our energy stabilizes. Where we've done the practice, we're doing the work, our neurons and the neural pathways are being rewired here, and it feels a little bit easier. Then decisions take less time. We can trust that emotional wave. Even if that does take time, we can trust it. We can trust our splenic authority or our sacral authority. And this is where your relationships feel deeper. Maybe that person in your life hasn't changed, but you have changed your awareness. You have raised your frequency. And this is where I notice a lot of women, they trust themselves and their inner authority more than anybody's outside opinion. And again, this doesn't happen overnight. It happens through repetition, through time and time again of making these new choices and choosing yourself, even in those like mundane, "Hey, what socks am I going to wear today?" kind of way. And when we're talking about what does this look like in real life, rewilding can look like leaving conversations earlier instead of just pushing through because you're trying to be nice, or changing how you work instead of forcing productivity, or forcing yourself to into that my worth is dependent on how much my output is, or letting yourself rest without having to earn it. This is a huge one because so many of us, especially us undefined sacrals, have been told time and time again that whenever we're resting, it's lazy, or we're told that you have to do all the work and then you can rest. No, rest is essential. Rest is just a basic human need, and you get to do it without having to earn it. And rewilding is choosing environments that don't drain the hell out of you. You can lovingly like I said, put up those boundaries and choose the spaces and people that you're with. Stopping the habit of managing everyone else's expectations. Like, by the time we're in our 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond, we're done with that. No, it is not my job to manage everyone else's expectations and their experience in life. It's none of my business. What is my business is how I show up. And this framework and this rewilding process is what we do inside all of my containers, especially the Nine Centers Mystery School, because we're taking your human design, bringing it into life, bringing it into your actual decisions, your relationships, your work, your intimacy, everything and every aspect of life. We can look at it through the lens of rewilding. So if you've been, maybe you've learned a little bit about your human design, but you've noticed that you're still repeating those same patterns, this is the space where we break out of those patterns and we step into who we're meant to be. And again, I'll link that in the show notes. Rewilding really sticks when you stop trying to do it right. I'm calling out all of those recovering people pleasers and recovering perfectionists, because in this season, you don't need to perfect anything. You don't need to be consistent in it. And you don't need to get it right every single freaking time. What you do need is to be honest with yourself. Honest about what drains you, what you want to put down, you don't want to carry with you into this next season. And honesty about what actually works for you. And that's it. We don't have to over explain ourselves. So, a few questions that I want to leave you with this week to just notice what comes up. So feel free to come back to this episode if if you're driving and you have pen and paper, you don't have pen and paper, come back to it. But a few questions to ponder and to contemplate. Number one, where are you still saying yes automatically? Number two, what part of your day right now costs you the most energy? Number three, what feels lighter when you give yourself permission to stop doing it? And number four, what would change if you trusted that? Instead of overriding it, what would change if you trusted that information your inner sense was giving you? So, if this episode felt supportive, I have a few ways that we can go deeper together. First is my energy snapshot audio. This is a simple foundational way to understand how your design type works without all the overwhelm. If you want a full breakdown of your chart, that's what we do inside Decode Your Design. That is all about your human design and ways that you can bring it into your life with, again, I try to not be overwhelming. Yes, it's comprehensive, but it's something that is self-paced that you can come back to over and over again. And then last but not least, as I mentioned it a few times in this episode, the Nine Centers Mystery School is my hybrid space where we are not just learning about human design, we're living it. We're going to do it through support, with space, and with real integration. Everything will be linked in the show notes. I thank you again so much for being with me on this journey, and I'll see you in the next episode. Well, that's it for this episode of Rewild by Design. I trust that you got what you needed here today, and just remember,